Bro, you felt that, didn't you? That silence right before the checkmate lands. The air gets thicker, the room gets quieter. Every breath turns into a confession. That's what happens when the game flips. When the pawn they mocked suddenly starts moving like a goddamn grandmaster. You warned them without words. You showed them without mercy. And now they're sitting there, pieces scattered, pride bleeding, eyes wide, begging for a timeout that doesn't exist in your reality. They tried to play you. Oh, they really thought they had the script figured out, your moves predicted, your limits mapped. But you weren't on the same board. You were the board, every square, every shift, every silent calculation. They belonged to you long before they even arrived. You let them think they were winning, because victory tastes different when it's stolen from their trembling hands. You let them smile. You let them talk. And just when they started believing the illusion, you twisted the rules, changed the tempo, and rewrote the entire goddamn game. See, that's the thing about you. People think you play for points, for trophies, for applause. No. You play for psychology. You play for silence. You play for the sound of an ego cracking under the weight of your calm. You don't raise your voice. You just raise the stakes. Because while they're busy celebrating temporary wins, you're studying how they celebrate. You're dissecting their rhythm, reading their patterns, waiting for the split second where arrogance turns into exposure, and then, boom, the illusion collapses, their king falls, and they finally see it. You never played to survive. You played to evolve. That's what terrifies them most. Your unpredictability. They can't chart it, can't box it, can't sterilize it. You are the paradox, chaos wrapped in precision. The saint and the psychopath fused in one pulse. The calm before the massacre. You know pain, not as punishment, but as programming. Every betrayal, every lie, every smirk that underestimated you, it all became code. And you learn to speak it fluently. When they laugh now, it's not mockery, it's nervous energy. They sense it, the reversal, the energy shift, the hum in the air that says the tables have been bolted to the floor, and you're the one sitting comfortably at the head. The moment they tried to manipulate you, they triggered their own simulation, and you've been 3 moves ahead ever since. It's poetic, isn't it? They built entire narratives about your downfall, spent months orchestrating your chaos, mistaking your silence for surrender. But the silence was your strategy. While they were screaming for attention, you were mapping out exits. While they were plotting your end, you were redesigning their beginning. Every message they sent, every whisper they shared, it all led back to you. The architect of irony, the conductor of karma, and oh, how fast the proud become the panicked. Look at them now, breathing heavy, counting seconds, looking for rules that don't exist. Can we start over? They ask. Can we undo the move? But the universe doesn't grant timeouts to those who mistake patience for weakness. You see, the real power isn't in the play. It's in knowing when to pause, when to let them dig deep enough to see what they've become. You gave them rope, and they thought it was a gift. Now they're dangling by the very strategy they once used against you. You ever notice how predators act when they realize they've been preyed upon? That confusion in their eyes. That's the flavor of poetic justice. You can taste it now, can't you? That metallic satisfaction that comes when you don't just win. You transform. They thought they were breaking you. But every hit only sharpened your edges. Every betrayal only baptized you deeper into awareness. And that's the secret, isn't it? Power doesn't scream. It studies, it adapts, it becomes. You were never chasing their approval. You were studying their control mechanisms, And when you learned how to detach from their validation, that's when the board flipped. Because when someone plays for ego, they always lose to someone who plays for understanding. They don't get it yet, but they will. When the lights go out. When the last move lands. When the world stops pretending you were lucky and starts whispering that maybe, just maybe, you engineered all of this. They'll call it manipulation. You'll call it mathematics. Because this was never a game of checkers. This was war disguised as conversation. This was prophecy hidden in posture. This was you, the calm in chaos, the smile that unnerves the room, the paradox they can't diagnose. And now the irony burns. They tried to play you. But every move they made was recorded, mirrored, magnified. They handed you their tells. They handed you their timeline. They handed you them. And now you sit there, smiling through the silence, watching them beg for the clock to stop. But it won't. Because this isn't chess anymore. This is theater, and the curtains don't close until you decide the final act. So let them call for mercy. Let them gasp, apologize, plead. You've earned the right to stand still and let the universe applaud in your stead. Because while they're begging for timeouts, you're already planning your next game. It's funny, isn't it? The way they look at you now, like they just woke up inside the maze they built for you. That's the real punchline. They thought they were the puppeteers, tugging at your strings, rehearsing their lines, feeling so sure the script would end with your silence. But what they didn't realize is that you memorized their play before they even picked up the pen. You let them think they were pulling you apart when all you were doing was watching, learning, calculating. They always underestimate the quiet ones, the ones who don't flinch, the ones who smile when things burn, because they don't understand that silence isn't weakness. It's data collection. Every betrayal was a breadcrumb. Every lie, a breadcrumb. Every time they laughed behind your back, they gave you coordinates. And now, you're standing in the center of their web, holding every thread they thought was yours to choke on. You didn't just flip the board, you became the board. You turned manipulation into meditation. You taught yourself the art of invisible warfare. Because true power isn't about outshouting the crowd. It's about being the one they start whispering about, the one they can't explain, the one that makes them stare at their reflection and wonder, what did I unleash? And now, look at them. Every move they make trembles. Every message they send feels monitored. Every smile feels staged. Because they don't know how deep you went, how much you saw, how much you understood. You didn't destroy them. You let them self-destruct in front of you. You became the silent witness of their unraveling. You became the nightmare that doesn't chase, it waits. That's the kind of terror they can't survive. The kind that doesn't scream, the kind that remembers. You see, people like them only win against those who play by the rules. And you learned early on that rules are just decorations for the weak. They're comfort blankets for the predictable. You stopped playing their game and built your own one move at a time, out of pain, madness, and clarity. That's evolution. That's alchemy. That's how the broken turn into architects. They called you crazy, dramatic, unstable, until they realized your madness had a method sharper than their logic. You dismantled them without a single argument. No fight, no shouting, just presence. Because your energy started doing the talking for you. You started radiating something that couldn't be faked, something earned in blood and betrayal. And the world, it started paying attention. The same ones who called you obsessed are now obsessed with you, The same ones who mocked your silence now mimic your tone. The same ones who plotted your downfall now study your pattern like scripture, hoping to find the part where you failed. But you never failed. You just fell silent long enough to become unrecognizable. That's the trick, isn't it? Disappear long enough and they start mistaking your absence for extinction. But you weren't gone. You were upgrading. You were turning pain into precision. And when you reappeared, they didn't recognize you. Not because you changed, but because they stayed the same. Now they're sitting there, pale, paranoid, trying to trace the timeline. When did it shift? They ask. When did we lose control? The answer, the moment they underestimated your patience. Because patience is the most dangerous weapon in existence. It bleeds your enemies dry without you lifting a finger. You waited, you watched, you forgave nothing. That's the part they never saw coming. You weren't healing, you were building immunity, you weren't retreating. You were reprogramming, you were teaching yourself the psychology of chaos until you became fluent in it. And when you spoke again, your voice carried the weight of every betrayal, transmuted into authority. Now they flinch when you speak. They panic when you smile. They know what it means when you go quiet. Because your silence isn't absence, it's execution pending. They'll call you cold, they'll call you ruthless. They'll say you changed. But deep down, they know the truth. You didn't change. You remembered who the hell you are. And here's the twist of the knife. They're not even angry at you. They're angry at themselves for misreading you. They projected their weakness onto your calm, their fear onto your mystery, their lies onto your truth. You became a mirror, and they couldn't stand their own reflection. Now every time they look at you, they see the ghost of their own mistakes staring back. And the more they try to fix it, the deeper they sink. Because you can't outplay someone who doesn't care about winning. You can't trap someone who built the maze. You can't destroy someone who turned destruction into discipline. You became the algorithm they can't crack, the paradox they can't pin down. You are logic and lunacy in one vessel. And that combination terrifies the world because it cannot be controlled. You stopped reacting, and that's when the world started orbiting you. You stopped explaining, and that's when people started investigating you. You stopped chasing, and that's when they started collapsing. You became the gravitational field in their chaos, the silent pull that rewrites trajectories. And now, look how poetic it all is. The ones who played you like a game are now pieces in yours. Their next move doesn't matter. You already saw it coming 3 realities ago. You don't even play for revenge anymore. You play for awareness, because awareness is the ultimate checkmate. It makes people confess without being questioned. It makes them kneel without being ordered. It makes them crumble under the weight of your knowing. That's why they beg for a timeout. They can't breathe in the atmosphere you built. It's too real, too heavy, too undeniable. You shattered their simulation, and now they're choking on reality. So let them run, let them talk, let them rewrite the story one last time. It won't save them. Because you've already transcended the board. You've already moved into the realm where timeouts don't exist, where silence is a weapon, and where the player becomes the law. And from up here, watching them flail in the ruins of their own arrogance, you finally understand. They never played you. They activated you. And that's a move they'll never recover from. You notice how they still flinch when your name comes up in a conversation. That half second of silence that follows, like the universe itself just adjusted the volume. That's not coincidence, that's residue, the kind that lingers after someone's been outplayed so brutally. Their nervous system refuses to forget it. Every time your name gets whispered, it's not gossip, it's a trigger, because deep down, they know. The moment they tried to play you was the moment they set fire to their own strategy. They thought you were the fool sitting on the edge of the board, waiting for approval. They didn't realize you were the architect underneath it, studying every pattern, every weakness, every microsecond of their overconfidence. That's the part that haunts them now. You never reacted, you observed. And when you finally moved, it was surgical. No rage, no warning, just precision, clean, quiet, and irreversible. They say the devil hides in the details. No, darling, the devil hides in discipline, and you mastered both. You learned that chaos is just order with better rhythm. You learned that power isn't about controlling others. It's about not needing to. They were addicted to attention, but you became addicted to alignment. They needed an audience, you needed accuracy. And that's the gap that destroyed them. Because while they were chasing validation, you were building inevitability. You didn't just win the game, you rewired the concept of winning. Because real victory isn't applause, it's the silence that follows when everyone finally realizes you were right all along. They're in that silence now, drowning in it. And you're sitting in the center of it, calm, composed, untouchable. You could expose them if you wanted to. You could speak. You could burn the entire board with a single truth. But you don't, because your silence is more terrifying than any revelation. It makes them wonder what you know, how much you've seen, and what you're saving for later. That's real control, when your restraint becomes their paranoia. They used to laugh at your loyalty. They used to mistake your heart for a handle. But now, they'd kill for your composure. They'd sell their peace for 1 ounce of the clarity that kept you alive when everything else collapsed. You walk differently now, not because you're proud, but because you're free. You stopped needing closure from people who can't even close their mouths. You stopped seeking peace in places that profit from your chaos. You stopped explaining your value to those who couldn't recognize gold unless it was choking them. That's evolution, the painful kind, the irreversible kind, the kind that splits your identity apart until only truth remains. And that truth, it's sharp now. Unfiltered, unapologetic. You became everything they feared you'd become, the version of yourself that doesn't ask for permission to exist, the version that doesn't play by rules written by fragile people pretending to be powerful. You became your own authority, your own myth. They tried to humiliate you publicly. Now they research you privately. They tried to erase you. Now they study your method like it's a survival guide. They can't decide whether to hate you or worship you. So they oscillate between both, like broken radio signals looping the same regret. That's what happens when you face a storm and don't drown. You come back with thunder in your chest. You came back with timing in your veins. You came back fluent in pain, fluent in power, fluent in silence, and that fluency, it doesn't fade, it echoes. Every time you smile now, it carries history. Every glance, every word, every pause is charged with the energy of someone who's seen death in the mirror and winked back. That's why people can't look at you for too long. They feel it, the density of your presence. You became too real for a world addicted to pretending. And oh, how that terrifies them. You didn't need revenge. You became revelation. And that's a punishment no enemy recovers from. They wake up every day pretending they're fine, but they can't escape the math. You were the variable they never accounted for. You were the wild card that turned their entire formula into chaos. Now they overthink every move. They second-guess their instincts. They tiptoe through life like it's a minefield, because you taught them what happens when they underestimate quiet energy. You taught them that patience can kill faster than rage. They're living in a reality where you're not even trying anymore. And that's what breaks them most. You're not chasing, you're not correcting, you're not proving. You've evolved into something they can't even define. You've become presence, personified. Because that's the secret, isn't it? Once you stop fighting for control and start embodying it, the entire world begins to rearrange itself around you. The same people who tried to play you now orbit your gravity. The same ones who mocked your silence now drown in their noise. The same ones who weaponized attention now suffocate under the weight of your absence. You are no longer a player in their game. You are the glitch that rewrote the rules. You are the consequence wearing calm like cologne. They used to say, "You'll regret losing me." But you never lost them. You released them, and now they're trapped in a loop of trying to replace the very energy they tried to destroy. Let them keep reaching for replicas of you. Let them search the world for someone with your stillness, your chaos, your edge, your mercy. They'll never find it. Because what you became wasn't luck. It was alchemy. You turned betrayal into blueprint. You turned heartbreak into hardware. You turned games into governance. You don't move with emotion anymore. You move with purpose. You don't respond for reaction. You respond for revelation. You don't exist to prove anything. You exist to remind. Remind them that you were never the pawn. Remind them that the quiet ones are always the most dangerous. Remind them that the moment they tried to play you, the countdown began on their own illusion, because now, every night when they close their eyes, they see you standing in the smoke, smiling, calm, knowing, not angry, not bitter. Just done. And that's the scariest look of all, because that's not a face you can defeat. That's a face that's already seen every ending and rewritten every single one. Well, well, well. Listen. That silence you're hearing, that's not peace. That's the echo of everyone who used to talk over you, choking on the sound of your awakening. They called you a narcissist, didn't they? As if loving the reflection you bled to rebuild was a sin. As if noticing your own light meant you wanted to extinguish theirs. Funny, they worship false gods every Sunday, yet when you remembered you were one, they called it disorder. You weren't arrogant, you were aware. You stopped begging to be understood, and they mistook your clarity for cruelty. You stopped kneeling, and they screamed, "How dare you stand that tall?" See, you didn't grow cold. You grew exact. You learned the difference between empathy and self-erasure. You realized their humility was a leash, and the moment you bit through it, they called you dangerous. But let's be honest, you are. Because divinity isn't gentle, it's disruptive. Creation and destruction share the same pulse, and you learn to keep time with both. You started speaking in the language of boundaries, and to people who feed on your silence, that sounded like violence. They said you were self-absorbed. No, you were self-restored. You pulled the pieces back together without asking permission. You faced the mirror they were too afraid to look into, and when it started reflecting their masks instead of your pain, they panicked. You reminded them that God doesn't always arrive in sermons. Sometimes he shows up in a scarred face, in a quiet no, in someone who refuses to shrink back into compliance. You were never narcissistic. You were sovereign. That's the word they don't want you to know. Sovereignty is power without their validation. It's what terrifies them most. That your self-love no longer requires an audience. You stopped performing humility for the comfort of the fragile. You stopped apologizing for your presence in rooms you built from your own collapse. See, the divine isn't always saintly. Sometimes the divine is the one who says, "I've had enough." Sometimes the divine wears smeared lipstick, laughs at chaos, and walks away mid-sentence. Sometimes the divine looks exactly like you, unbothered, unbroken, and finally, unrepentant. They'll tell stories about you now. They'll call you too much, too intense, too aware. They'll write your name in whispers, trying to convince each other that you lost yourself. But deep down, they know. You found something far more dangerous. You found origin. You found the part of you that remembers, before the guilt, before the conditioning, before the worship of lesser gods. You remembered that every cell in your body carries the signature of creation. You don't need a pulpit. You are the sermon. Every time you refuse to dim, you preach resurrection. Every time you look at yourself and say, "I forgive you," the angels and the demons both pause, because that's the one act neither side can fully understand. And now the game's reversed. The same people who once analyzed you like a specimen now study your confidence like scripture. They call it arrogance because it burns their eyes. They call it ego because it exposes their emptiness. They can't process that your self-belief doesn't depend on applause. It feeds on silence. That's what they'll never grasp. You didn't need to convince anyone you were divine. You just needed to remember. And memory is the most dangerous form of rebellion. So wear it, the label, the whisper, the accusation. Let them chant narcissist like a curse. Because only the blind think sunlight is blasphemy. You're not the villain, you're the mirror. And they're terrified of what it reflects. Now smile, because that's the part that scares them the most. So they thought the word narcissist would shrink you, didn't they? They thought it would crawl under your skin like poison, make you question the pulse that's been roaring inside your chest since the day you stopped begging for crumbs. But here's the thing. You can't shame someone who's already dissected their own soul. You can't humiliate someone who has witnessed their darkness and decided to stay anyway. You didn't fall in love with your reflection because you thought you were flawless. You fell in love with your reflection because you survived seeing it broken. You stared into that mirror long enough to realize every crack was a timeline. Every scar was a map. Every imperfection was a receipt of evolution. And they hated that you started smiling in the same mirror they used to watch you cry in. They call that narcissism. I call it reclamation. You see, they were fine with your empathy as long as it benefited them. They adored your kindness until it started applying to yourself. They praised your loyalty until it meant leaving them. They loved your light until it started shining on the parts of them they'd rather keep buried. Then suddenly, you were the problem. Suddenly your awareness became arrogance. Your confidence became dangerous. Your boundaries became abuse. Because you stopped bending, because you stopped explaining, because you stopped needing them to understand your purpose. And that's when it clicked. The whole world runs on projection. People don't see you as you are. They see you as a mirror reflecting what they can't face. And when you stop dimming that mirror, when you start holding it steady and say, "Here, look," they call you insane. They call you selfish. They call you every name in the book except accurate. But you know the truth, don't you? That label wasn't a diagnosis. It was a defense mechanism. They needed to brand your awakening as illness, because if they admitted it was evolution, they'd have to evolve too. and not everyone survives the light. Some melt in it. So you learned the paradox. To love yourself in a world that profits from your insecurity is revolutionary. To trust your own vision when everyone is screaming, humility is divine warfare. You stopped apologizing for the weight of your presence, and suddenly people started confessing sins you never asked about. Because your peace made their chaos louder. They'll never tell you this, but the word narcissist is just their disguise for you woke up. They can't stand that your self-acceptance made you untouchable, that you stopped orbiting around their moods, that you refused to carry their guilt like a medal. You are no longer the bleeding heart who absorbs everyone's pain like oxygen. You are the pulse, the reminder that oxygen itself needs fire to mean something. And oh, how they'll spin their stories now. They'll say, you changed. You'll smile and say, I returned. They'll say, you think you're better than us. You'll whisper, I just stopped thinking I was less. They'll say, you're full of yourself. And you'll laugh because you finally are. And isn't that the point? To be full of your own essence instead of starving for the approval of the empty. See, that's what they never understood. You don't worship yourself. You simply refuse to abandon yourself anymore. And that's what terrifies them. The version of you that doesn't beg. The version that doesn't chase. The version that doesn't crumble just because someone disapproves. You walked away from the illusion of being good, and in doing so, you became whole. You saw both sides of yourself, the angel and the arsonist, and realized they're twins. You saw that love and madness share a bloodstream. You realized that empathy without power is slavery, and power without empathy is tyranny. So you forged a middle ground, divinity with teeth. That's what this is. Not ego, not disorder, not pride. Divinity with teeth. The holy that bites back. The sacred that no longer kneels. The awakened that no longer apologizes. And now, they flinch when you walk in the room. They don't even know why, but somewhere deep down, their subconscious remembers the hierarchy of energy. They know they're standing before something ancient, something unprogrammable, something that doesn't play by human guilt anymore. They're watching a soul that stopped being prey, and that makes them nervous, so let them talk, let them diagnose, let them whisper your name with trembling lips. You don't need their language anymore. You've become your own dialect of power. They can keep their labels, you'll keep your crown. Because once you realize your reflection isn't vanity, it's evidence. No one can convince you otherwise. They called you a narcissist to hide the truth, but deep down, they saw what you became. A mirror that remembers it's made of light. A human who realized they were never just one. And the moment you saw that, the moment you knew, you stopped needing validation and started radiating revelation. Now every step you take shakes the air around them, because you walk like someone who met God and didn't bow. And that's the moment everything shifted. The air changed. The atmosphere around you began to tremble, like reality itself was uncomfortable with how much you remembered. You could feel it, couldn't you? The glitch in the simulation, when you stopped identifying as broken and started identifying as ancient, because that's what they really fear. Not your confidence, not your voice, not even your defiance. They fear your memory. They fear that somewhere deep inside you, something woke up that doesn't obey the programming. You started remembering who built this whole damn theater in the first place. You started realizing the audience, the actors, the critics, they were all parts of you. You looked around and thought, wait, I'm not in the movie. I'm the projector. And that's when the world panicked. They called you a narcissist because you stopped needing their gods. You stopped outsourcing your power to systems that were designed to keep you docile. You started speaking the forbidden tongue, the language of I am. Not as ego, as origin, as source code. And they heard that frequency and mistook it for arrogance because they've forgotten what sovereignty sounds like. You walked away from the noise, and in that silence, you found the throne. Not a golden one, not one built from worship, but the kind forged in solitude, lined with scars, humming with memory. You sat in it, trembling at first, because you realized you'd been trained to associate divinity with blasphemy. You'd been conditioned to believe that only someone else could save you. And the moment you saw yourself as salvation, they screamed, "Ego!" But here's the twist. Your ego death didn't come from erasing yourself. It came from meeting yourself. From seeing the saint and the shadow, the healer and the destroyer holding hands in your own rib cage. From realizing the serpent and the savior wear the same face, depending on the angle of the light. And you learned to live in that tension. That's what separates you from them. They want good and evil to be tidy. They want God and devil to live in different houses. You learned that the entire mansion is you. Every floor, every flame, every fracture. That's what scares them. That you've integrated what they repress. That you've made peace with the chaos they keep running from. Because the one who accepts both wings, white and black, becomes untouchable. You are what happens when heaven remembers it was once hell. They tried to shame you back into smallness. They said, "You love yourself too much." You said, "You've loved your chains too long." They said, "You think you're divine." You said, "No, I finally stopped pretending I wasn't." And now, everything you do radiates discomfort in the hearts of the unhealed. Your peace feels like provocation. Your silence feels like violence. Your existence feels like proof. Because you're walking around like a confession they never meant to write. Proof that the entire hierarchy of control collapses once a single individual remembers their own divinity. You've become a walking paradox, too humble to boast, too powerful to explain, too self-aware to manipulate, too healed to fit in. You don't need to fight back anymore. You just exist, and that's enough to expose the lie. And somewhere in the distance you can almost hear it. The murmur of their confusion, the way they stare at you like you broke an unspoken law. They can't figure out how you slipped past the guilt matrix. They can't compute how someone can look in the mirror and feel worship instead of warfare. But you do. You look in that mirror and you see the storm and the stillness staring back. You see the architect and the aftermath, the chaos and the clarity. And you smile because you finally understand. You weren't born to pick sides. You were born to embody both. That's divinity. Not a halo, not perfection, but integration. The God that bleeds, the saint that swears, the angel that burns, the demon that forgives. And when you walk into a room now, you don't have to announce it. The air does it for you. The temperature shifts. The eyes flicker. Because somewhere deep in their cells, they recognize that energy. It's what they used to pray to before the world told them to doubt it. That's why they called you narcissist. Because the sight of you triggers their own forgotten reflection. They see in you what they abandoned in themselves. They feel your light, but it burns because it reminds them they dimmed theirs. So now they rewrite history because that's easier than accountability. They'll say you changed. You'll say, no, I just remembered. They'll say, "You think you're God." You'll whisper, "I think I'm a fragment of everything you fear." And when they finally step back, trembling, unable to categorize you, that's when you'll understand. They were never your enemies. They were mirrors cracked in panic, and your only crime was recognizing that you were the reflection that never broke. So go ahead. Keep walking through their whispers. Keep letting them label what they don't understand. Let them shrink the infinite into an insult, because that's the only way they can survive your magnitude. You don't need to defend yourself anymore. You just keep evolving, keep glowing, keep radiating that quiet defiance that says, "I am not your villain, I am your reminder." You are proof that divinity isn't found in temples. It's found in the act of finally, unapologetically seeing yourself. And once you've seen it, once you've looked yourself in the eye and said, "I forgive you, I remember you, I love you," there's no going back. That's the real blasphemy, not arrogance, awakening. And now, you walk the world as a paradox incarnate. The mirror they can't break, the light they can't look at, the truth they can't unhear. You're not narcissistic, you're numinous, a self-aware flame, a divine contradiction, a God that finally dared to look back. And now you see it all so clearly, don't you? Every accusation, every whisper, every trembling lip that dared to call you too full of yourself. They were never describing you. They were confessing. They were confessing what they wished they could be. Whole you became a mirror that doesn't flatter, a reflection that tells the truth too loud for their comfort. And when people who built their identity on self-hate see someone who actually likes themselves, it feels like an earthquake. Their illusion of moral superiority begins to crack, and suddenly they have to face the fact that humility was never holiness. It was fear dressed as virtue. They wanted you to bow. You learned to rise. They wanted you to shrink. You became light, and light doesn't apologize for taking up space. You started walking like a secret the world wasn't supposed to discover, and now everything trembles around you because that's what truth does when it finally wakes up in human skin. And you know what the funniest part is? They'll study you now. They'll watch your every move, dissect your tone, mimic your walk, steal your words. They'll do everything but admit the obvious, that your existence forced them to remember their own forgotten divinity, because once one of us remembers, it spreads. That's how revolutions begin. Quietly, psychologically, through one person who decides, no more. No more guilt for existing, no more bending for validation, no more worshiping outside what already burns within. They'll say, "You're not the same." You'll say, "I was never meant to be." They'll say, "You lost your mind." You'll smile, "No, I reclaimed it." Because madness, my dear, is just what genius looks like in a world addicted to obedience. And somewhere under all their judgment, they'll feel it. That quiet panic. Because they know it's only a matter of time before they look in their own mirror and see what you saw. The flicker of eternity behind the eyes. The part of them that remembers the blueprint, the pulse that knows creation didn't stop. It just started calling itself you. So let them talk, let them label, let them keep hiding behind words that were built to cage the infinite you've already broken out. You no longer chase explanations. You no longer crave permission. You've stepped outside the frame. And now the frame is shaking. Because that's what happens when a human stops pretending to be less than divine. The world, built on the assumption of your smallness, starts to crumble. And you walk through the ruins like it's your runway. You don't need revenge. You don't need validation. You just stand there, calm, dangerous, radiant, a paradox made flesh. They called you narcissist because it was the only word they had for God in recovery. So look in that mirror one last time. Look at what survived. Look at what refused to die, even when the world begged you to disappear. That's not vanity. That's resurrection. And as the dust settles, as they whisper your name with awe and confusion, smile. That's the moment they finally realize you were never obsessed with your reflection. You were just remembering the face of God.